Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hi guys, welcome. My name is Erin Decker. I am one of the co-owners of White Rose Books and More in Kissimmee, Florida. And I'm joined today by the authors of The Last Tiger, Brad and Julia Riew. They are siblings. Brad is an MFA candidate in fiction at NYU's creative writing program. He graduated from Harvard College in 2018 with a degree in psychology, where he won the Ecker Short Story Prize. The Last Tiger is co-written with his younger sister, Julia, and it's his first novel. Brad lives in Brooklyn, New York. Julia is a composer, lyricist, librettist, and novelist, best known for her Korean folktale-inspired musical Dive, which is currently in development with Tony Award-winning director Diane Paulus and GLAAD Award-winning playwright Diana Sun for a world premiere at the American Repertory Theater. In addition to being the 18th annual Fred Ebb Award winner, Julia has been Playbell's featured songwriter of the month, a woman to watch on Broadway, a Princess Grace Award honoraria recipient, and the recipient of the Harvard Wood Artist Launch Fellowship. Julia graduated from Harvard University magna cum laude as a member of Phi Beta Kappa with a joint degree in theater, dance, media, and music. Wow. That is awesome. So I read The Last Tiger many months ago now. It was one of my favorite reads of the year, definitely my favorite young adult read. So I'm super excited to be talking to you both. I just thought it was so beautiful, the way it was written, the way you guys kind of wove this story together. Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind The Last Tiger and why it was important for you to tell this story?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for reading the book. We're so excited. So in terms of the inspiration, as you may know, as per the author's note, this story is inspired by our grandparents' actual forbidden romance during the Japanese colonial period, during the Japanese occupation of Korea. Brad, did you want to talk about
Yeah,
it all
absolutely.
came together?
And just the second joy. I'm so happy to be here. It's really great to talk about the book, and thank you again for reading it. Yeah, so our the book the origin of this book is our grandfather passed away in 2020. He was part of the early COVID wave, and our grandmother ended up writing almost 50 pages of memories of from their lives, how they met, all the ups and downs of the things that they'd experienced and gone through together. And when we read it, we were so floored by it that we thought we had to do something with it. So The Last Tiger is inspired, as Julia said, by true stories from their lives, by some of the uh, strange and difficult history they lived through, colonization, oppression, poverty, and but in our reimagining, we've taken some of that historical context and wrapped it in a fantasy world. I think one of the central ideas of the book is this idea of cultural erasure, which is the official Japanese state policy at the time was to try to eradicate the Korean culture, Korean language, and folk songs and customs. And we've reimagined this act that was committed by the actual colonial government, which was to kill all of the Korean tigers, the national animal, as a fantasy piece. So in our retelling, the tigers are these magical spirits, which give the power of empathy and the power to feel other people's memories to the people. So we're drawing on some of those real stories from our grandparents' lives while retelling it for a younger and modern audience.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so sorry for the loss of your grandfather. With that being said, has your grandmother been able to read The Last Tiger and been kind of involved in this writing process with you guys?
Well, so our grandmother, I would say her level of she's really, really fluent conversationally in English, but her reading level might not be, I guess, up to the level of maybe reading like a full novel in English. But that being
Sure.
said, she has received the copy, and
Uh,
I actually have a couple videos online of the time that we first gave her, and she was able to read the dedication and to see that it was dedicated to her and our grandfather. Um, and we've kind of explained to her what the novel is, although I'm not sure if she quite understands the concept of what it means, what a YA fantasy novel is. Um, but she's really excited that it exists.
that's amazing. And that's beautiful. I love that you're getting to share parts of it with her. Hopefully people will go find the video. Is it on your social media?
Yes, yeah, it's on
Okay.
Instagram and TikTok.
I will go check that out because I haven't seen it yet. So what type of readers are you hoping will get to read The Last Tiger? Who do you hope this reaches?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think The Last Tiger is, it is for anyone who enjoys fantasy, for people that enjoy historical fiction, or historical fantasy. But I think more broadly than that, we know that people right now are growing up in a time that feels maybe confusing or disorienting, or disheartening to many, and that um, anyone who is sort of feeling lost about how to navigate that moment. I think one of the things that was really helpful for us while we were researching and writing this piece was that we were able to look back at some of the things that our grandparents had lived through and to feel the resonances with the present moment, to be able to
Hmm.
understand some of the things we were going through ourselves. So this is really a story about how love can help us through dark times,
Yeah.
how the love for each other and the love that they found in their hearts, uh, was able to carry them through and give them a new life and a new sense of hope. And we hope that um, uh, anyone struggling with the historical moment of today is also able to find that spirit in the book that we've written.
Yeah. I know when I was reading, there was a lot of the history that I didn't know a lot about. So I was doing research on that, but I also was comparing it to our modern times and like what is happening now in our country, and seeing those parallels. And it is hopeful that two people can reach across, cultural and economic divides and find something to empathize with each other in and also find love in that as well. Yeah. So that's who I hope it reaches too. But I think your beautiful packaging and just the idea, the fantasy is going to reach so many people first, and then they'll get all that out of it while they read. Um, so what is it like to co-write with your sibling? Because I have a great relationship with my own sister, but I can't imagine we're very different. So I can't imagine writing with her or putting together something like this so personal.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I actually think sometimes the ways that you are different could actually help make the story
Hmm.
better. Especially like since I come from a theater background, so for me, collaboration is almost more natural than writing something by yourself. And so the opportunity to collaborate with someone who has a different brain than you, I think is often really exciting. Um, but in terms of art, it's funny. This is the number one question that we always get whenever we go anywhere. People are like, what is it like co-writing with your sibling?" And then we like so we try not to give like the same answer every time. Um, but
Yeah,
basically,
people are really curious about it.
yeah, they always want
Yeah.
to know. Well, so I think it's helpful to say that like Brad and I have been essentially collaborating for as long as I can remember. I've known Brad since I was born. And when we were little kids, the way we used to play together was basically telling stories and acting them out or jumping around in the bed. And like we would take stories like Star Wars or like Pokemon, which is like a game, I guess. And then Brad would kind of make up stories, and then I'd be like, oh, and then this, oh, and then this happened, and then this happened, and like we would kind of like act it out together, and with our other brother Grant, who is now in med school, so he went down a different path. But basically, I mean, and then we sort of wrote our first book in quotation marks when I was 8 and Brad was 12. And then we were always just coming up with stories together. We wrote a musical together when I was in high school, Brad was in college. So this was it's almost like second nature for us to collaborate together. And I think so much of it also comes from the fact that we grew up watching all the same media, reading all the same books. We have very different tastes, but that we understand each other's sensibilities really well because we're siblings and because we grew up that way.
Yeah.
And also like we have a sort of shorthand that when you meet a new collaborator, you don't necessarily have, but Brad and I have a sort of, we understand each other's lives so well that we're kind of able to communicate in like a deeper way than I would with someone who wasn't my sibling. So I think, and then I would say the other thing is like we're able to sort of communicate without sugarcoating anything. There's no boundaries. It's kind of like the way that siblings can fight and still be friends. We can do that in a collaborator sense as well. In terms of the actual process, we started this on Mother's Day in 2021. Brad was home for Mother's Day. I was home because it was the pandemic. And I had just gone through a whole phase where I'd read a bunch of YA fantasy. And I said to Brad, what if we turned Grandma and Grandpa's love story into a fantasy novel at dinner? And he goes, yeah, okay. So then literally by the end of the evening, we had an entire journal full of like ideas. We had started brainstorming all the characters. We had a rough plot arc charted out. We had taken Grandma and Grandpa's various stories that they had told us and we're sort of slotting it into space. And then we went from there. And then it was a lot of figuring out. It was a lot of like figuring out who's doing what and then where do we go from there? But ultimately by the end of the process, like we had both truly worked in pretty much every sentence of the book. And we both worked and tinkered in every single sentence and chapter.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. That's awesome that you guys are able to work so well together and can, support each other's imaginations and work styles. What do you think was the most difficult part of writing this novel?
Yeah, I think as Julia mentioned, it was so much fun to work together. And it was she's one of the people I trust the most, and we got to spend a lot of time together. So really enjoyed the whole process. I want to say it also kind of saved. It was really helpful for me during this period because I ended up in the pandemic coming down with a pretty serious post-COVID chronic fatigue presentation. And I, at the time, had to stop working and really pull back from many aspects of daily life as I had been living it before. But being able to have a trusted and deeply loved collaborator to kind of pull through on the times that were most difficult was really, really helpful. I think writing with a chronic illness is a challenging experience, as maybe other authors or many other people can attest to. There would be days when, I'd be able to write a paragraph or two, and then I would have to take off maybe 48 to 72 hours to recover from that experience. So definitely a challenge to write with an illness in that way. But I think uh, all of the experiences that we've had kind of make it into the book. Uh, one of the things people say about Korean history is that the challenges that you've lived through sort of get into your blood and get passed down through the years and make it their way into your lives. And I think that my own experiences of difficulty have certainly made it into the book as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of the process of writing, it seems, is putting a little bit of your soul into writing, and that just includes every experience that you're having. What was the most surprising thing that you guys learned? This is one of my favorite questions to ask authors, while you were writing, whether it was like research or something you learned about each other or something you learned about your family.
Yeah, well, I think there were a lot of surprises along the way, but so sort of the biggest one I think for us was learning about the concept of Han, which is something we thought we knew. So if you look in the book, the part three of the book is called Han, and it's Han as a concept is talked about quite a bit in the book, which is the concept of this sort of inherited, as Brad was just discussing, this inherited trauma and also this deep grief that is shared by the Korean people through the experiences that through just all the struggles and experiences that we've experienced in history. And this is something that in Korean American culture has been really adopted and really widely talked about in a lot of different, especially in forms of entertainment. And it was really interesting because I had my fiance read a copy of an early draft of the book when it was sort of like in its advanced reader's copy era. And my fiance is from Korea. And he said that actually the takes on a very different meaning for Koreans than for Korean Americans. And actually, a lot of people are beginning to object to the concept of Han because the history behind it, and this is what a lot of Korean Americans, I think, I mean, at least we didn't know, and a lot of the Korean Americans I talked to don't know, that while we have sort of taken this on as a strength, like Han is our strength and it's our thing that unites our people, Han was, the origins are actually kind of widely debated. And some people say that it was actually created by a Japanese artist to explain why the Korean people are inferior or inherently weaker and inferior because of their people characterized by their suffering. And so it's a really interesting thing where we wrote so much of the book kind of inspired by this thing that has really been a term of strength for the Korean American people that actually has kind of a deeper, darker history than we knew, or more complex history, which I think just kind of speaks to the book itself. This is a very recent history. There are our grandmother and many people are still alive today that experienced the time that this book is inspired by. And there are a lot of feelings surrounding that time and a lot of different ways to feel about it, and a lot of different ways. So that sort of history has been passed down. So I think that was probably for us the biggest surprise. And one thing that then we did some edits from the ARC copy to the final copy to dig into. But there were a lot of surprises along the way.
Yeah, no, I think this concept of Han was actually really central to how we were thinking about The Last Tiger and what its meaning was for a current audience. As Julia was saying, we were surprised to learn about its origin story, but I think one of our experiences in rewriting history, rewriting stories inspired from our grandparents was the ability to tell something new and to tell it for a new people. It has this origins in Korea in the colonial period, but really what we're hoping to speak to is young people growing up today across the world, some with a Korean background, some without. But this idea of the grief that we share being actually a source of strength if we can transform it into something has been really meaningful to us and is uh, uh, while an idea that we can problematize and understand in its origins, transform it into something meaningful for our own lives, I think was really important to us, and we hope it shines through in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Language is such a powerful thing, and so I appreciate you guys sharing a little bit more background about that with me. Thank you both for joining me today, and I've been just waiting and waiting for my copies to come to the store so I can share this story with everyone who walks in the doors. And I hope other booksellers who are listening will make sure that their copies are on their way and hand sell it as well.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!